Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me and listen to me well. There comes a time in life when you have to make a decision, a real hard decision. Are you going to stay stuck in the pain of what they did to you? Are you going to keep replaying that betrayal in your mind, letting it drain your joy, your strength, your peace? Or are you going to rise up and take back what belongs to you? Somebody in this room is walking around carrying a weight they were never meant to carry. Oh, you smile on the outside, but inside you are exhausted. You're wasting your energy fighting battles that should have ended a long time ago. Let me tell you something. The secret to finding peace after betrayal is not in revenge, not in explanations, not in proving your worth to people who never valued you. The secret is simple, Leliti. IT, Gil, pause for effect, let the silence sink in, then raise your voice, look at your neighbor and say, let it go. Yeah, because where God is taking you, you can't afford to carry that dead weight any longer. That bitterness, that resentment, that need to justify yourself, IT, is holding you hostage. And tonight we're about to break free. Betrayal hurts, but holding on hurts more. And I need you to hear me when I say this, because some of you have been carrying the weight of what they did to you for far too long. You've been nursing that wound, rehearsing that pain, and letting it shape the way you see yourself, the way you see others, and even the way you see God. But let me ask you something. How long are you going to let what they did continue to control you? How long will you allow their betrayal to define your emotions, your choices, your peace? Because I promise you, the weight of what happened is not crushing them, it's crushing you. Listen to me, betrayal is real, and I will never tell you to pretend it didn't hurt. It did hurt. It cut deep. It knocked the wind out of you. And for some of you, it didn't just happen overnight. It was someone you trusted, someone you gave your heart to, someone you confided in, someone you thought would never do you like that. You never saw it coming. Maybe it was a spouse who walked away. Maybe it was a friend who turned their back. Maybe it was family who should have protected you but left you to fend for yourself. And here's the truth. You had every right to feel the pain. You had every right to cry, to scream, to ask God, why did you let this happen to me? But what you don't have the right to do is to let that pain hold you hostage for the rest of your life. See, betrayal is like a deep wound. If you don't treat it, if you don't clean it out, it gets infected. And let me tell you something, the infection of unforgiveness, bitterness, and resentment is worse than the wound itself. The betrayal was bad, yes, but holding on to it, letting it fester, that is what is killing you. It is stealing your joy, your focus, your energy, your destiny. Every time you replay the moment and every time you hold on to what they said, every time you relive the pain, you are giving them free rent in your mind. And let's be real, half of the people who hurt you, who betrayed you, who left you, they're not even thinking about it. They've moved on, they're living their lives, and here you are, still chained to a moment that was meant to be a lesson, not a life sentence. Let me help you today. Stop carrying what God has called you to release. Stop holding on to something that no longer serves you. It happened, yes, but it does not have to own you. You have spent enough time crying over what they did. You have wasted enough nights losing sleep, tossing and turning, wondering why they did it, how they could do it, and what you could have done differently. But let me tell you something, there is no answer that will ever satisfy your pain. There is no explanation that will ever make betrayal feel okay. Even if they came back today and said, I'm sorry, would it undo the damage? Would it erase the nights you cried? Would it fix the years you lost? No. Because the true healing is not in their apology, it's in your decision to let IT go. Somebody in this room needs to make up their mind today. I will not let this pain define me. I will not let this betrayal keep me bound. I will not give another ounce of my energy to what they did. I will not let this be the reason I stop trusting, the reason I stop loving, the reason I stop believing that God still has a plan for my life. Because let me tell you something, what they did may have caught you off guard, but it didn't surprise God. He saw it before it happened. And if he allowed it, it means he has a greater plan beyond it. Listen, what if I told you that the betrayal was part of the blessing? I know. It doesn't feel like it, but hear me out. What if I told you that what they did to you was the very thing that was going to push you into the best season of your life? What if I told you that the rejection was actually redirection? What if I told you that the people who walked away were never meant to go where God is taking you? You keep asking God why they left, and God is saying, I removed them to make room for what's next. But you can't receive what's next if your hands are still holding on to the past. So today is the day. Today is the day you make a decision. I'm done carrying this. I'm done holding on to something that is keeping me from my peace. I'm done wasting my energy on what I can't change, because my peace is too expensive to be sacrificed for a memory. My joy is too valuable to be tied to people who didn't see my worth. My future is too great to be bound by the pain of my past. Somebody say it with me, let IT go. Say it again, let IT go. Because your healing, your freedom, your peace, it's waiting on you to stop looking back and start looking forward. The rest of your life is waiting on you to release what's been holding you back. Let it go and watch what God does next. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Think about that for a moment. You are walking around with a heart full of resentment, bitterness, and anger, holding on to what they did to you as if keeping it close will somehow make them suffer. But the truth is they have moved on. They have continued with their lives, probably not even thinking about the pain they caused. And yet here you are, replaying the hurt, holding on to the grudge, and letting the weight of unforgiveness steal your joy, your peace, your purpose. Let me ask you who is really suffering here. Who is truly paying the price? Because I guarantee you it's not them, it's you. You see, unforgiveness is a trap. It makes you believe that if you let go of the anger, you are somehow letting them off the hook. But that is a lie. Forgiveness is not about excusing what they did. It is not about saying that it didn't hurt. It is not about acting like it never happened. No, forgiveness is about setting yourself free. It is about saying, I refuse to let what they did have power over me any longer. Because when you hold on to unforgiveness, you are the one who remains trapped in the past. You are the one still carrying the burden of what happened. You are the one whose mind is occupied with anger and revenge while they go on with their life completely unbothered. And let me tell you something, unforgiveness is not just an emotional burden. It is a spiritual, mental, and even physical burden. It will eat away at you. It will make you sick. It will keep you up at night. It will steal your joy in the present because you are still tied to the pain of the past. It will affect your relationships because you are carrying baggage from one situation into another. Some of you are pushing away people who truly love you because you are still holding on to wounds from someone who hurt you. Some of you are walking around with walls up, not allowing yourself to trust, to love, to be vulnerable because you are still bound by the pain of what someone else did to you. And the saddest part, that person who hurt you no longer has to do anything else to you because they already planted the seed of bitterness inside you, and now you are the one watering it, feeding it, keeping it alive. But today I came to tell you, you don't have to live like this. You don't have to carry this any longer. You don't have to drink the poison of unforgiveness and let it destroy you from the inside out. You have the power to let it go. You have the power to release it. And I know some of you are saying, but you don't understand what they did. You don't know how bad it was. You don't know the damage they caused. And you're right, I may not know the details of your pain. But I do know this: holding on to it will not heal you. It will not change what happened. It will not make them suffer. The only person who is suffering is you. You see, unforgiveness is a prison, but what's worse is that you are the one holding the key. God never designed you to live with the burden of bitterness. That is why when Jesus was on the cross, after being betrayed, beaten, mocked, and nailed to die a painful death, his words were, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, if Jesus, who was completely innocent, who had every right to demand justice, who had the power to call down angels and destroy his enemies, if he could still choose forgiveness, what makes you think that holding on to your grudge is the right way? Because let me tell you something about unforgiveness. It does not just affect your emotions, it affects your spirit. It blocks your prayers. It hinders your blessings. It creates a barrier between you and God. Some of you have been asking God, why haven't you answered me? Why haven't you blessed me? And the answer is simple. He is waiting for you to let go of what is contaminating your spirit. You cannot receive what God has for you if your hands are still full of bitterness. You cannot move into your future while you are still chained to your past. And hear me, unforgiveness does not hurt the person who hurt you. It only hurts you. Some of you have been walking around with this burden for years. You have been holding on to what your ex did to you. You have been replaying the betrayal of that friend. You've been carrying the weight of family members who wronged you. And every time you think about it, your heart still races, your stomach still turns, your mind still goes back to that moment. That is not peace. That is not freedom. That is bondage. And today God is saying, let it go. Not because they deserve it, not because what they did was okay, but because you deserve peace. You deserve freedom. You deserve joy. And you cannot have those things as long as you are holding on to unforgiveness. So I challenge you today, make a decision. A real decision, not just to say I'll try to forgive, but to actually release it, to lay it down. To say I refuse to let this keep me bound for another day. Because as long as you hold on to that unforgiveness, you are allowing the person who hurt you to keep hurting you. But the moment you let it go, the moment you say, I refuse to drink this poison any longer, that is the moment you take your power back. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it is a choice. And sometimes it is a choice you have to make every single day. But the more you choose to release, the more peace you will find. The more you choose to forgive, the lighter your heart will feel. The more you choose to let go, the more you will step into the freedom that God is waiting for you. So today, right now, in this moment, I want you to ask yourself, is holding on to this pain really worth my peace? Is keeping this grudge really worth my destiny? Is my pride worth blocking my blessings? And if the answer is no, then right now you have one thing to do. Let IT go. Bitterness blocks your blessings. And some of you have been praying, God, why hasn't my breakthrough come? Why do I feel stuck? Why am I still in the same place? But the truth is, it's not that God isn't answering, is that your heart is too full of resentment to receive what he's trying to give you. God cannot pour new blessings into a cup that is already filled with bitterness. Some of you are asking for more, but you have no room because you are still holding on to the pain, the offense, the betrayal. You see, bitterness is like a wall that you build around yourself. You think you're protecting yourself from getting hurt again, but all you're really doing is shutting out your own growth, your own joy, your own future. Every time you hold onto resentment, you are reinforcing that wall brick by brick. Every time you replay what they did, every time you refuse to forgive, every time you let that anger sit in your heart, you are making the wall stronger, thicker, harder to break through. And after a while, you're not just keeping people out, you're keeping yourself trapped inside. You ever wonder why some people can go through the worst kind of betrayal, the deepest kind of hurt, and still walk around smiling, still move forward, still live in peace, and yet others, years later, are still bitter, still talking about it, still letting it define them? The difference isn't what happened to them, it's how they chose to respond. Some people understand that bitterness is a poison that only hurts them. It is not punishment for the person who hurts you. It is a slow destruction of your own soul. Bitterness doesn't just affect your emotions, it affects your mind, it affects your body, it affects your relationships. Have you ever noticed how when you hold on to resentment, you start to see the world through the lens of your pain? You don't trust people anymore, you assume the worst, you expect betrayal. You start pushing away the very people who actually care for you because deep down you believe everyone will hurt you eventually. That's what bitterness does. It changes your heart, hardens your spirit, and keeps you stuck in a past that God has been trying to move you beyond. And let me tell you something, God will not bless a bitter heart. He will not open new doors for someone who refuses to close the old ones. Some of you are asking for blessings, but your heart is still full of anger toward the people who hurt you. And God is saying, I can't give you what you're asking for until you release what you're holding on to. Because bitterness and blessings cannot exist in the same space. You can't be asking for peace while holding on to grudges. You can't be praying for love while carrying hatred in your heart. You can't be asking for a fresh start while still being chained to your past. Some of you have been holding on to this bitterness for so long that it has become part of your identity. You have gotten so used to carrying it that you don't even realize how heavy it is. But let me tell you, just because you've carried it for a long time doesn't mean you're supposed to keep carrying it. Some of you have been walking around with this weight for years, and it has drained your energy, stolen your joy, and kept you from experiencing the fullness of what God has for you. But today, right now, God is saying, let it go. I know you feel justified in your bitterness. I know you think that holding on to it gives you some kind of power over the person who hurt you. But listen, your bitterness isn't affecting them, it's affecting you. Some of the people who hurt you aren't even thinking about it anymore. Some of them don't even remember what they did. And yet, here you are, still carrying it, still feeding it, still letting it take up space in your heart and mind. And for what? What do you gain from holding on to it? Has it made you feel better? Has it given you peace? Has it brought you healing? No, it has only made you exhausted. It has only kept you in a cycle of pain. And that is exactly what the enemy wants. He wants you to stay bitter because he knows that as long as you are holding on to bitterness, you will never fully walk in the purpose God has for you. He wants you to stay stuck in that resentment because he knows that if you ever let it go, you would finally be free. And I don't know who this is for, but somebody needs to make a decision today. I will not let bitterness block my blessings any longer. Some of you are one decision away from peace, one decision away from joy, one decision away from stepping into everything God has been trying to give you, but you have to release the bitterness first. You have to make a choice. Do I want to stay angry? Or do I want to be free? Do I want to hold on to my resentment, or do I want to walk into my destiny? Because you cannot have both. Bitterness is like a clenched fist. When your fist is clenched, you cannot receive anything new. But the moment you open your hand, the moment you release what you've been holding on to, that is the moment God can place something better in your life. But as long as you are gripping onto your past, there is no room for your future. So today, right now, you have a choice to make. You can keep carrying the weight of bitterness, keep letting it block your blessings, keep letting it steal your peace, or you can let it go. You can say, God, I refuse to let this keep me bound for another day. I refuse to let bitterness rob me of another moment of joy. I refuse to allow the actions of others to have power over my life any longer. Because the truth is, the moment you release the bitterness is the moment you take your power back. The moment you let it go is the moment you set yourself free. And let me tell you, there is a life waiting for you beyond the bitterness. There is joy beyond the resentment. There is peace beyond the pain. But you will never experience it if you don't make the decision to release what has been holding you back. So don't wait another day. Don't waste another moment. Let it go. Walk in your peace. Walk in your freedom. Walk in your blessings. Because the rest of your life is waiting on you to make this choice. The choice to stop letting bitterness block your blessings and start stepping into the life that God has for you. There comes a point in your life when you have to make a decision. Do I want to keep carrying this pain, or do I want to be free? Because you cannot have both. You cannot walk in peace while holding on to resentment. You cannot embrace joy while clinging to bitterness. You cannot receive healing while refusing to let go of the wound. Some of you have been carrying the weight of what they did to you for so long that it has become a part of you. It has shaped the way you think, the way you see yourself, the way you treat others, and you don't even realize that it is poisoning you from the inside out. You wake up thinking about it, you go to sleep thinking about it, you replay the conversations, relive the betrayal, rehearse the pain over and over again in your mind. And for what? Has it changed what happened? Has it given you the justice you think you deserve? Or has it only kept you chained to the past while life moves forward without you? Because let me tell you something. Life is moving forward. Whether you heal or not, life is moving forward, whether you choose to let go or not. The question is, will you move forward with it, or will you stay stuck in a moment that no longer serves you? Some of you have been bound by the same pain for years. You have carried this burden for so long that you don't even remember what it feels like to live without it. You have nursed the wound, fed the grudge, kept the anger alive, and now it has become your comfort zone. You don't know who you are without the pain. You don't know how to live without the resentment. And that is exactly what the enemy wants. He wants you to stay in this cycle of unforgiveness. He wants you to stay trapped in the prison of bitterness. Because as long as you are holding on to the pain, you will never walk in your full potential. As long as you are replaying what happened, you will never step into what is ahead. You have been giving your energy to something that is draining you. You have been investing your thoughts, your emotions, your time into something that is robbing you. And the people who hurt you, they have moved on. They are not suffering the way you are suffering. They are not staying up at night the way you are staying up at night. They are not carrying the weight of the pain the way you are carrying it. And yet here you are, allowing their actions to have power over your life. But let me ask you something. How much longer? How much longer are you going to let what they did control you? How much longer are you going to give them space in your mind? How much longer are you going to let this dictate your joy, your peace, your future? Because the longer you hold on to it, the longer you are delaying your healing. The longer you refuse to release it, the longer you are postponing the freedom that is already available to you. And I know, it's not easy. It's not easy to let go when the pain is real. It's not easy to release something that cut you so deeply. It's not easy to forgive when the wound is still fresh. But let me tell you something. Healing is a choice. It is not about waiting until you feel like forgiving. It is not about waiting until the pain magically disappears. It is about making a decision that you will no longer be held hostage by something you cannot change. Because here's the truth. What happened to you happened. You cannot undo it. You cannot rewrite the past. You cannot erase the memory. But what you can do is decide that it will no longer have power over your present and your future. You can decide that you will no longer give it control over your emotions. You can decide that you will no longer let it steal your joy, your peace, your energy. Bitterness is a thief. It steals your happiness. It steals your ability to trust. It steals your capacity to love freely. And some of you have been walking around guarded, closed off, unwilling to let people in because of what someone else did to you. Some of you have built walls so high that even the people who love you can't get through. And you call it protection, but really it's a prison. You think you are keeping yourself safe, but all you are really doing is keeping yourself bound. But today God is saying, you don't have to carry this anymore. You don't have to keep holding on to what is hurting you. You don't have to let what they did define you. Because here's the truth. You are more than what happened to you. You are not the betrayal. You are not the abandonment. You are not the pain. You are not the mistake. You are not the heartbreak. You are not the loss. You are so much more than that. But as long as you hold on to it, as long as you let it shape you, as long as you let it control you, you will never step into the fullness of who you were created to be. So today you have a decision to make. Are you going to keep carrying this, or are you going to set yourself free? Are you going to keep giving your energy to something that is only hurting you, or are you going to take back your power? Because the moment you let it go, the moment you release it, the moment you say, I refuse to let this hold me any longer, that is the moment you step into your healing. That is the moment you step into your peace. That is the moment you take your life back. And let me tell you something. God has so much more for you. He has joy for you. He has love for you. He has new beginnings for you. But you cannot receive the new if you are still clinging to the old. You cannot walk into your next season while holding on to the burdens of the last one. Some of you are asking for open doors, but your hands are too full of baggage to walk through them. And God is saying, if you just let it go, I have so much more waiting for you. But you have to be willing. You have to make the choice. No one can make it for you. No one can force you to release it. No one can push you into your healing. You have to want it. You have to decide that your peace is worth more than your pride, that your joy is worth more than the grudge, that your future is worth more than your past. So today, right now, in this moment, make the decision, make the choice, take a deep breath and say, I will not carry this any longer. I will not let this define me any longer. I will not let this steal another second of my life. I choose peace. I choose healing. I choose freedom. I choose to let it go, because the moment you release it is the moment you step into the life that was always meant for you. There is a reason why your energy feels drained. There is a reason why you feel exhausted even when you haven't done anything physically demanding. There is a reason why you feel weighed down, like you're carrying something heavy that you can't seem to put down. It's not your job. It's not just life's demands. It's not even the people around you. The weight you feel is the emotional and mental energy you are wasting on something that is no longer serving you. The weight you feel is the burden of carrying pain that was never meant to be carried this long. The weight you feel is the exhaustion that comes from constantly replaying the past, holding on to anger, keeping resentment alive, and refusing to let go of what hurt you. You wake up tired, not because you didn't sleep enough, but because your mind never rested. Even when your body is still, your spirit is in turmoil. Even when you try to move forward, your heart is still tethered to what was. And so every day feels like a battle. Every day feels like you are pushing through a storm. Every day feels like you are fighting to simply exist, because something inside of you has not been released. And you wonder why you don't have peace. You wonder why you feel stuck. You wonder why no matter how much you try to distract yourself, no matter how much time has passed, the pain is still there lingering, whispering, keeping you tied to something you should have let go of a long time ago. It is because you are wasting your energy, wasting your strength, wasting your joy, wasting your peace. Every time you think about what they did, every time you replay the betrayal, every time you let anger rise up in you, every time you speak about it with bitterness in your heart, you are giving your energy to something that is only depleting you. And energy is powerful. Energy is life. Energy is your ability to move forward. And some of you have been giving your energy to the past while asking God to bless your future. Some of you have been pouring your strength into resentment while asking God to give you peace. Some of you have been investing your time into remembering the pain while wondering why you can't seem to experience joy. But listen to me, where your energy goes, your life follows. If you keep feeding the pain will grow. If you keep giving your attention to what hurt you, it will continue to take from you. If you keep focusing on what they did, you will keep reliving it over and over again as if it just happened. Some of you are exhausted not because of your circumstances, but because of your thoughts. Your mind is constantly in a war zone. Your emotions are constantly reliving the battle. Your heart is constantly carrying something heavy, and you are drained, not because life is too hard, but because you are holding on to something that is weighing you down. And let me tell you something, this is why some people never heal. This is why some people stay stuck in the same cycle for years. This is why some people can go through one betrayal, one heartbreak, one disappointment, and still be talking about it 20 years later. Because they never took control of their energy. They never made the decision to stop giving power to something that no longer deserves their attention. They never realized that the reason they are still hurting is not because of what happened, but because they keep holding on to it. At some point, you have to get tired of being tired. At some point, you have to say, I refuse to keep giving my energy to this. At some point, you have to realize that what happened is over, but your healing is a choice. And every single day, you are making that choice, whether you realize it or not. Every single day, you are deciding, am I going to waste another moment of my life focusing on what hurt me, or am I going to take my power back and put my energy into healing? Some of you are running on empty because you are spending all your energy in the wrong places. You are wasting it on anger. You are wasting it on grudges. You are wasting it on trying to make sense of why they did what they did. You are wasting it on proving a point. You are wasting it on waiting for an apology that may never come. And all the while, your joy is sitting there untouched. Your peace is sitting there waiting for you to reach for it. Your future is sitting there ready for you to step into it. But you are too tired to reach for what's next because you are too busy holding on to what's behind you. You are not tired because life is too much. You are tired because you are carrying too much. You are tired because you are fighting battles that should have ended a long time ago. You are tired because you keep watering a dead thing, hoping it will come back to life. You are tired because you keep revisiting a wound that is ready to heal, but you won't stop picking at it. And the sad thing is, you don't even realize how much life you are wasting by holding on to this. But here's what I need you to understand. Your energy is sacred. Your strength is sacred. Your peace is sacred, and you cannot afford to keep wasting it on things that are only draining you. You cannot afford to keep pouring into something that is robbing you. You cannot afford to keep investing in pain when healing is available to you. There is too much ahead of you. There is too much purpose waiting for you. There is too much destiny on your life for you to stay stuck in this place. And I know, you feel like you have every right to be angry. You feel like if you let go, it means they got away with it. You feel like if you move on, it means what they did was okay. But let me tell you something. Letting go is not about them. It is about you. It is about your freedom. It is about your peace. It is about your ability to finally breathe again without the weight of this pressing down on you. You don't need their apology to heal. You don't need closure to move forward. You don't need an explanation to be at peace. What you need is a decision. A decision to stop wasting your energy on something that is keeping you bound. A decision to say, I deserve to be free. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to wake up without this burden. And I will no longer give my energy to something that does not serve me. Because let me tell you, peace is priceless. Joy is priceless. And some of you have been trading your peace for pain, trading your joy for bitterness, trading your strength for resentment. But today you can make a different choice. Today you can say, no more. I refuse to waste another day, another moment, another ounce of my energy on this. I choose to heal. I choose to let go. I choose to put my energy where it belongs, in my future, in my growth, in my happiness. And the moment you do that, the moment you truly make the decision to let it go, you will feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Lightness, freedom, peace. Because the burden you have been carrying was never meant to be yours forever. And the second you put it down, you will finally have the strength to move forward. You cannot heal in the same place that broke you. You cannot find peace while still sitting in the chaos that wounded you. You cannot step into your next chapter while still clinging to the pain of the last one. And yet some of you have been trying to do exactly that. You have been trying to move forward while holding on to the past. You have been trying to step into healing while still keeping your heart tied to what hurt you. You have been asking God for peace, but you have refused to remove yourself from the environment that is constantly reopening your wounds, and then you wonder why you still feel stuck. You wonder why you still feel broken. You wonder why the same emotions keep coming back, why the same pain keeps resurfacing, why you can't seem to find the peace you are desperately searching for. It is because you have not truly left the place that broke you. Some of you walked away physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you are still there. You are still tied to that situation. You are still replaying what happened in your mind. You are still rehearsing the conversations, still reliving the betrayal, still trying to make sense of why they did what they did. You left, but you didn't leave. And that is why healing has been so difficult for you. Because healing does not just require distance, it requires detachment. It requires you to truly separate yourself from what hurt you. It requires you to stop feeding it with your thoughts. Stop nourishing it with your emotions. Stop giving it access to your peace. You cannot say you want healing while still allowing yourself to be surrounded by the same things that broke you. You cannot say you want to move forward while still keeping your heart and mind attached to the past. Some of you have been trying to heal while still entertaining the same toxic conversations. You have been trying to find peace while still engaging in the same cycles that stole your peace in the first place. You have been trying to build yourself up while still keeping the doors open to the people and situations that tore you down, and that is why you are exhausted. That is why you feel drained. That is why you keep feeling like you are taking one step forward and 10 steps back. Because you are trying to walk into a new season while still holding on to the pain of the last one. But let me tell you something. Real healing requires separation. Real healing requires you to remove yourself completely. It requires you to stop seeking answers from the place that broke you. It requires you to stop expecting closure from people who never valued you in the first place. It requires you to stop going back to what hurt you. Stop checking in on people who betrayed you. Stop looking for validation from situations that were designed to destroy you. Because every time you go back, every time you open that door again, every time you allow yourself to entertain the same dysfunction, you are picking at a wound that was trying to heal. You are delaying your own progress. You are keeping yourself stuck. And let me be clear, separation is not just about walking away from people. It is about letting go in your heart. Because some of you have walked away physically, but you are still holding on to the pain. You are still holding on to the resentment. You are still allowing the memories to control you. And that is why the wound still feels fresh. That is why you still feel the sting of what happened. That is why no matter how much time has passed, you still find yourself hurting over something that should have been released a long time ago. Because healing is not about time. Healing is about separation. Healing is about saying, I refuse to allow this to have access to me anymore. I refuse to keep carrying what God has called me to let go of. I refuse to keep entertaining what is draining me. You cannot receive what is ahead of you if you are still holding on to what is behind you. You cannot step into new blessings while still carrying the baggage of the past. Some of you are asking for open doors, but your hands are too full to receive them. You are praying for peace, but your mind is still preoccupied with the things that stole your peace in the first place. You are asking for clarity, but you are still engaging with the confusion that caused your pain. And God is saying, I am trying to heal you. I am trying to move you forward. I am trying to take you higher, but you have to be willing to let go of what is weighing you down. Because here's the truth. You cannot heal in the same place that broke you. You cannot heal while still staying connected to what caused your pain. And some of you have been feeling stuck, not because healing is impossible, but because you have been refusing to separate yourself from what is keeping you bound. You have been trying to make peace with something that is only bringing you turmoil. You have been trying to force an ending where God has already closed the chapter. And every time you try to go back, every time you try to reopen that door, every time you entertain those same toxic conversations, you are delaying what is already meant for you. But today, you have a decision to make. Will you keep holding on to what broke you? Or will you finally release it so that you can step into your healing? Will you keep entertaining what is destroying you? Or will you finally separate yourself so that you can receive the peace that has been waiting for you? Because the moment you truly let go, the moment you truly cut the ties, the moment you say, I refuse to stay connected to what is keeping me broken, that is the moment your healing will begin. That is the moment you will feel the weight lift off of you. That is the moment you will finally be free. But you have to be willing. You have to make the decision. No one can do it for you. No one can force you to heal. No one can push you into peace. You have to want it. You have to decide that you will no longer give your energy, your thoughts, your emotions, your time to something that does not serve you. You have to make the choice to finally let go, not just with your hands, not just with your words, but with your heart, with your mind, with your soul. Because the second you do that, the second you say, I refuse to stay in this place any longer. I refuse to keep going back to what broke me. I refuse to keep reopening wounds that are ready to heal. That is the second your peace will return. That is the second your strength will be restored. That is the second you will finally feel what it is like to breathe again, to live again, to be free again. And let me tell you something, freedom is worth it, peace is worth it, healing is worth it, but you will never experience any of it as long as you stay connected to the very thing that broke you. So today, right now, make the choice. Choose peace, choose healing, choose to walk away, to separate yourself, to detach your heart from what was, so that you can step into what will be. Because the life that is meant for you, the joy that is waiting for you, the blessings that are ahead of you, they are all on the other side of your willingness to let go. There comes a point in life when you have to stop looking for an apology that may never come. There comes a point where you have to stop waiting for closure that may never be given to you. There comes a point where you must decide, do I keep waiting for something outside of me? Or do I take responsibility for my own healing and move forward, even without the words I thought I needed? So many of us are stuck in the cycle of pain because we are still waiting for the person who hurt us to acknowledge what they did, waiting for them to see the damage they caused, waiting for them to feel the weight of their actions the way we have felt the weight of their betrayal, waiting for them to wake up one day and realize that they were wrong, that they were selfish, that they were reckless with our hearts, waiting for them to send that text, make that phone call, look us in the eye and finally say, I'm sorry. But what if they never do? What if they go on with their lives as if nothing happened? What if they never take responsibility for their actions? What if they never acknowledge the pain they inflicted? What if they never give you the closure you've been waiting for? Will you let that stop you from healing? Will you let that keep you bound to something that is already over? Will you allow the absence of their apology to control your future? Because here is the hard truth. Some people will never say they're sorry. Some people will never acknowledge what they did to you. Some people will never take responsibility for the role they played in your pain. Not because they don't know what they did, not because they don't realize the hurt they caused, but because they are incapable of facing their own truth. Because doing so would require them to confront parts of themselves they aren't ready to deal with. Because doing so would shatter the image they have of themselves. Because doing so would require them to admit that they were wrong, and some people would rather live in denial than face the consequences of their actions. And so if you are waiting for an apology in order to heal, you might be waiting forever. If you are waiting for them to acknowledge what they did before you move forward, you might stay stuck for the rest of your life. If you are waiting for closure from the person who broke you, you may never get it. But here's what you have to understand. Your healing is not in their hands. Your peace is not dependent on their apology. Your freedom is not tied to their ability to admit their wrongdoing. You do not need them to say sorry in order for you to let go. You do not need them to acknowledge your pain in order for you to be free from it. You do not need their validation, their remorse, their confession in order to move forward, because healing is not about them. Healing is about you. Healing is about deciding that you will no longer allow someone else's actions to dictate your ability to live in peace. Healing is about realizing that you do not need their permission to be free. Healing is about making the choice, even without an apology, even without an explanation, even without closure. I am moving on. And listen, I know it's hard. I know it feels unfair. I know you want them to acknowledge what they did. I know you want them to feel the weight of their actions. I know you want them to recognize the pain they caused. And maybe deep down, you want them to hurt the way you hurt. You want them to experience what they put you through. You want them to see the damage they did and feel remorse for it. But here's the thing, you cannot control that. You cannot control whether or not they feel guilt. You cannot control whether or not they ever come to terms with what they did. You cannot control whether or not they ever have that moment of realization and regret. But you can control what you do with the pain. You can control whether or not you let it define you. You can control whether or not you stay stuck waiting for something that may never come. Because the reality is, some people move on as if nothing happened. Some people never look back. Some people never feel the remorse you think they should feel. And if you are waiting for them to do so before you move forward, you will spend your life waiting. But you don't have to. You don't have to keep waiting. You don't have to keep holding on. You don't have to keep replaying the past in your mind, hoping that one day they will wake up and see the pain they caused. Because at the end of the day, the greatest closure you will ever receive is choosing to close the door yourself. The greatest peace you will ever find is realizing that you do not need anything from them in order to heal. The greatest freedom you will ever experience is understanding that their inability to apologize does not have the power to keep you bound unless you let it. So today, right now, I want you to make a decision. A decision to let go. A decision to stop waiting for words that may never be spoken. A decision to stop expecting healing to come from the very place that hurt you. A decision to take your power back and say, I refuse to let someone else's actions keep me from the peace that is already mine. I refuse to let their lack of remorse steal another moment of my joy. I refuse to let their inability to say I'm sorry dictate my ability to move forward. Because healing is a choice. Peace is a choice. And today you have the power to choose. Choose to move forward, even without an apology. Because the truth is, you don't need it. You never did. What you need is already inside of you. And the moment you realize that, the moment you stop waiting, the moment you close the door on what was and step into what is, that is the moment you will finally be free. There is something exhausting about constantly trying to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. There is something draining about giving your best to someone who only knows how to take. There is something soul-crushing about waiting for appreciation from people who have built their lives on overlooking you. And yet, so many of us keep doing it. We keep chasing validation. We keep searching for approval. We keep pouring into people who do not have the capacity to pour back into us. We keep bending over backward for those who would not take a single step. And then we wonder why we feel so empty. We wonder why we feel so unappreciated. We wonder why we are carrying a weight that is slowly breaking us down. Some of you have been wasting your energy trying to make people see your worth. You have been exhausting yourself trying to get them to acknowledge your value. You have been bending, breaking, compromising, overextending, just to get them to appreciate you. But no matter how much you do, no matter how much you give, no matter how much you sacrifice, it never seems to be enough. They take and take, but they never pour back. They receive your kindness, your loyalty, your love, but they never return it. And every time they overlook you, every time they disregard your efforts, every time they fail to acknowledge your presence, something inside of you breaks a little more. But let me ask you this, why are you still trying? Why are you still exhausting yourself for people who have shown you time and time again that they do not see you? Why are you still fighting for a place in the lives of people who would not even notice if you walked away? Why are you still overexerting yourself, over-explaining yourself, overcompensating for people who have made it clear that they do not appreciate what you bring to the table? Because here's the truth. You do not have to prove your worth to anyone. You do not have to convince someone to see your value. You do not have to chase people who refuse to appreciate what you freely give, because the right people, the people who genuinely care for you, the people who truly see you, they will never need convincing. They will never need a presentation. They will never need to be begged for attention. And yet so many of us keep chasing people who are running away from us. We keep pleading for love from people who are incapable of giving it. We keep begging for time from people who never make us a priority. We keep searching for appreciation from people who will never give it to us. And then we wonder why we feel depleted. We wonder why we feel unworthy. We wonder why we feel invisible. But the problem is not you. The problem is not that you are not enough. The problem is that you are trying to force something that was never meant to be. You are trying to make people care when they have already made the decision not to. You are trying to create space in the lives of people who have already filled their hearts with everything except you. And as painful as it is to admit, some people will never see your worth, no matter how much you do for them. Some people will never value you, no matter how much of yourself you give. Some people will never appreciate your presence, no matter how much love you pour into them. But that does not mean you are unworthy. That does not mean you are unlovable. That does not mean you need to do more. It simply means that you have been giving your energy to the wrong people. You have been investing in people who do not have the capacity to receive you. You have been trying to fit into places where you were never meant to belong. And today it is time to stop. It is time to stop chasing. It is time to stop forcing. It is time to stop pouring into people who only leave you empty. It is time to stop trying to convince people to love you, appreciate you, value you, because real love does not require convincing. Real appreciation does not require begging. Real connection does not require you to lose yourself just to be seen. You are worthy, even if they do not acknowledge it. You are valuable, even if they refuse to see it. You are enough, even if they never tell you. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you reclaim your energy, the sooner you stop wasting yourself on people who are incapable of receiving your love, the freer you will be. Because you cannot keep emptying yourself for people who refuse to pour into you. You cannot keep setting yourself on fire just to keep others warm. You cannot keep fighting for a seat at a table that was never meant for you. You cannot keep giving the best of yourself to people who do not even recognize your presence. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be appreciated. You deserve to be loved in the way you give love. But that will never happen as long as you keep settling for crumbs. That will never happen as long as you keep giving yourself to those who only take. That will never happen as long as you keep begging for something that should be freely given. So today, make a decision to stop chasing, a decision to stop fighting for people who do not fight for you, a decision to stop seeking validation from those who have already made it clear that they will never give it, a decision to take your energy back, to redirect your love to those who actually deserve it, to remind yourself that you do not need to prove your worth to anyone, because the moment you stop wasting your energy on the wrong people, the moment you stop settling for less than what you deserve, the moment you start recognizing that your value is not determined by someone else's inability to see it, that is the moment you step into the fullness of who you are. That is the moment you take your power back. That is the moment you finally stop chasing and start receiving. And let me tell you, the right people will see you. The right people will appreciate you. The right people will love you, not because you had to convince them, not because you had to prove your worth, but because they were meant to. Because they have the capacity to receive you, because they were designed to pour into you just as you pour into them. So stop fighting for people who do not fight for you. Stop overextending yourself for people who do not appreciate you. Stop wasting your energy on spaces that drain you, and instead choose to value yourself enough to walk away from anything and anyone that does not honor your worth. Because the moment you do that, the moment you make the decision to stop chasing what was never meant for you, that is the moment you finally find the love, the peace, the appreciation, and the fulfillment you have been searching for all along. There is a deep and painful truth that many people do not want to face, and it is this: not everyone who walks with you is meant to stay with you. Not everyone who starts the journey with you is supposed to finish it with you. Some people are seasonal. Some people come into your life for a purpose, and when that purpose is fulfilled, they leave. Some people come to teach you, to challenge you, to push you toward growth, but they were never meant to stay for the long haul. And the problem arises when we try to hold on to people that God, life, or circumstances are trying to remove. You see, some of you are fighting too hard to keep people in your life who have already let go of you. Some of you are holding on to relationships that have already expired. Some of you are trying to breathe life into something that is already dead. And it is draining you, it is breaking you, it is stealing your joy. It is exhausting you because you are trying to force something to exist that is no longer meant to be. Let's be real. When someone wants to stay in your life, you don't have to beg them. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to constantly remind them of your worth. When someone truly values you, they make an effort. They show up. They choose you. They invest in you. They prioritize you. But when someone has mentally, emotionally, or even physically checked out, no amount of chasing, no amount of convincing, no amount of pleading is going to make them stay. And yet so many of us are still running after people who have already moved on. So many of us are still trying to resurrect something that has already been buried. So many of us are still looking for life in relationships that have already withered away. And we wonder why we feel so exhausted. We wonder why we feel so rejected. We wonder why we feel so unappreciated. It is because we are fighting to hold on to something that is no longer holding on to us. But here's the truth. You cannot force someone to stay. You cannot make someone love you the way you love them. You cannot control whether or not someone values your presence. The only thing you can control is whether or not you continue to chase after people who have already let go of you. And I know it hurts. I know it feels unfair. I know you want to hold on. I know you want things to go back to how they used to be. I know you want them to wake up one day and realize how much you mean to them. But sometimes that day never comes. Sometimes the people you thought would be there forever walk away. Sometimes the relationships you thought were unbreakable fall apart. Sometimes the love you thought was solid turns out to be temporary. And when that happens, you have a choice. Do you keep holding on or do you let go? Because the longer you hold on to what has already left, the longer you delay your healing, the longer you chase after people who are running from you, the longer you stay stuck in the pain, the longer you refuse to release what is already gone, the longer you prevent yourself from receiving what is actually meant for you. You see, letting go is not about giving up. It is not about admitting defeat. It is not about saying you were not enough. It is about recognizing when something has run its course. It is about valuing yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you, supports you, or sees you. It is about freeing yourself from the cycle of chasing people who were never meant to stay. And let me tell you something, when you finally let go, when you finally stop fighting for people who are not fighting for you, when you finally stop begging for love, attention, and validation from those who refuse to give it, you will find peace, you will find clarity, you will find strength that you never knew you had. Because the truth is, sometimes the greatest blessing is in the goodbye. Sometimes the people who leave are making room for the people who are supposed to be there. Sometimes the door that closes is protecting you from something that was never meant to be yours. So stop holding on to people who have already let you go. Stop chasing love that does not want to be caught. Stop fighting to stay in places where you are not appreciated. Stop trying to force relationships that are no longer meant to exist. Instead, trust that what is meant for you will never require you to beg for it. Trust that the right people, the ones who are meant to be part of your journey, will never need to be chased. Trust that when one door closes, another one is waiting to open. Because the moment you release what is not meant for you, the moment you stop trying to force what is already gone, the moment you finally accept that some people are only temporary, that is the moment you truly find peace. That is the moment you take your power back. That is the moment you step into the life that was always meant for you. There comes a moment in life when you have to stop looking back. A moment when you have to stop replaying the past, stop reliving the pain, stop revisiting the moments that broke you. There comes a moment when you have to stop opening the door to memories that no longer serve you. Stop answering calls from the past that are only meant to distract you. Stop holding on to what was because you are afraid of what could be. There comes a moment when you have to decide, do I keep looking behind me or do I move forward into the life that is waiting for me? Too many of us are living in a space that no longer exists. Too many of us are stuck in a story that has already ended. Too many of us are holding on to things, people, situations that we should have let go of a long time ago. And it is draining us. It is robbing us of our peace. It is keeping us from stepping into the future that is calling our name. And for what? What are you holding on to? A relationship that has already crumbled, a friendship that has already faded, a version of yourself that you have outgrown, a situation that is no longer healthy. What are you clinging to that is keeping you stuck in a place you no longer belong? You see, moving forward is not just about walking away from something. It is about choosing to walk towards something greater. It is about making a conscious decision that your past does not deserve to hold you hostage. It is about recognizing that what is ahead of you is far more important than what is behind you, but you will never step into that future if you keep looking back. Some of you are stuck in bitterness because you won't stop looking back at what they did to you. You keep replaying the betrayal. You keep revisiting the hurt. You keep opening wounds that were supposed to be healing. And every time you go back to it, you give it more power over you. Every time you allow your mind to return to that place of pain, you delay your own freedom. Some of you are stuck in regret because you won't stop looking back at what you lost. You keep thinking about the opportunity that slipped through your fingers. You keep questioning the decisions you made. You keep wondering what could have been, what should have been, what might have been, if only things had gone differently. But the truth is, no amount of looking back can change the past. No amount of replaying those moments will give you a different outcome. No amount of wishing things were different will make them so. Some of you are stuck in fear because you won't stop looking back at your failures. You keep reminding yourself of every time you messed up. You keep convincing yourself that because you failed before, you will fail again. You keep letting your past mistakes dictate your future steps. But here's what you need to understand. Your past does not define you. Your past is not a prophecy of your future. Your past, you cannot embrace what is next if you are still wrapped up in what was. You cannot receive new blessings while your hands are full of old burdens. So today it is time to make a decision to stop looking back, a decision to stop giving your energy to things that are already behind you, a decision to stop allowing your past to rob you of your future, because looking back will not bring back what was lost. Looking back will not heal what has already been broken. Looking back will not take away the pain, the disappointment, the regret. Looking back will only keep you bound. Looking back will only keep you stuck. Looking back will only keep you from moving forward. And you were not meant to stay stuck. You were not meant to dwell in the past. You were not meant to keep carrying the weight of what was. You were meant to move forward. You were meant to grow. You were meant to heal. You were meant to step into something greater. But you cannot do that if you keep looking back. So today, right now, I want you to make a decision to release yourself from the grip of yesterday. A decision to take your eyes off of what is behind you and fix them on what is ahead. A decision to let go of the pain, the regret, the disappointment, the fear, the bitterness, the resentment, the guilt, the shame, whatever it is that has been holding you back. Let it go, because the future is calling your name. Peace is calling your name. Healing is calling your name. Purpose is calling your name, and you will never step into it if you are still looking behind you. So make the choice, make the move. Take the step, let go of what was, so you can finally embrace what is. Because the moment you stop looking back, the moment you finally release yourself from the weight of the past, that is the moment you step into your true power. That is the moment you finally become free. So now, the choice is yours. The past is behind you. The pain is behind you, the betrayal, the disappointment, the rejection. It's all behind you. And in front of you is freedom. In front of you is healing. In front of you is peace. But you will never experience it if you keep reaching back for what was. So today I challenge you, stop holding on to what was never meant to stay. Stop replaying what cannot be changed. Stop mourning what was only meant to be a lesson, not a lifetime. Stop carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. Because the moment you let go, the moment you stop wasting your energy on what is already gone, the moment you choose yourself over the weight of your past, that is the moment you truly start living. Walk forward, walk boldly, walk in confidence, knowing that what is ahead of you is far greater than anything you left behind. Let it go. And watch how peace, clarity, and strength will rise up inside you. Let it go. And step into the life that was always meant for you. Let it go, because you are worth so much more than what you lost.